Well, September 29th today, out here in Oregon. Hasn't rained. I think we had just a couple tenths of an inch in September of rain. Normally we're over an inch of rain in September anyway. So we got, I don't know, they call it Indian summer. I don't know what they call it. Anyway, we're into fall now, and beautiful day. Probably going to be, yeah, maybe in the 70s today. Anyway, got Manryd out here. Front end off the ground. These old cars with the king and link pin set up, they require grease and maintenance from time to time. And Manryd's beginning to get the loosies. So instead of driving them, you kind of herd them down the road. You might as well have a couple of reins like on some old mule or something and kind of herd it down the road. Anyway, getting a little bit loose, so I'm going to go ahead and grease the front end on this today and probably tighten up the link pins. King pins are a one-time deal. Change the king pins, put new bushings and ream them out correctly and whatnot, but the link pins can be adjusted, and anyway, when they start getting loose, it's usually link pins are getting worn a little bit, time to adjust them up. Anyway, that's kind of the situation I got going. So I got him jacked up here, and a couple of stands that are there just in case, and take a look here at what I found. I have to get a little light, I guess, if I can keep it plugged in. Anyway, underneath of Manryd here, there's the beam. It's got a selected drop, they call it beam, welded in adjusters in the center, and I run it maybe a couple inches lower than stock. I don't slam it all the way down. It's not really a good driving situation when they're all the way down. Anyway, out here on the outer end, see if I can get the light position there, so maybe we can see something. Get the wheel out of the way. King and link pin set up. Looks like it's fuzzy. Maybe I'll get a little tripod and set this up so I don't wiggle. Alright, take two. Got it set up on a stand now. Anyway, we're looking at the king and link pin setup off the trailing arms here on this beetle. And I don't know if I can do this or not. I'll give it a shot. We got, see if that'll turn over. There we go. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, we got the king pin runs top to bottom here, and then the link pins come off the trailing arms and go through here with some needle bearings generally, and you got a couple zerks here to grease it, which greases both the link pin and the bushing that's in here for the king pin. And then on the center of these torsion tubes, for the torsion tubes, there's a couple of zerks as well. Anyway, you're supposed to grease these guys. I don't know how often. I grease them when they get loose. That's just me. But that just means I have to adjust them, or adjust them more often and replace them more often. When you set up the alignment on these, generally you make the beam across level, and then let the two trailing arms hang free, and you drop a string off of the top one down. You measure the distance to decide whether or not they're bent. If they're out of tolerance, then you got to toss one, whichever one's bent, and put another one on. But based on the difference when the beam's level, and the difference in distance between the outer here and the outer here, it determines how many shims you put in on each side of this setup in here. And then it's just basically it's not a bolt, it's a rod that comes from this end through this way, has a big kind of a worm gear setup on it, and then this bolt that locks it in place. I hope I can, we're seeing some of this. Let me see here, let me adjust you down. I guess I've been talking out my behind here, but anyway, this bolt is the lock that runs through the worm gear part of this pin that runs through here, and then it clamps the end of this trailing arm down on it. Anyway, what I found was I have a little bit of movement here in the bottom link pin. So what I'll do is I'll loosen the lock here, and then on the end of it you can rotate it, which moves it in and out in that worm gear to suck up the distance. And so anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten those guys up, check them all, tighten them if necessary, and then grease it, and it should steer a lot better. There's a slight amount of movement in and out on that bottom one. It's not bad, but there's a little bit, and when you have, you know, a little bit here and all the linkage, and there's a little bit probably on the other side, when you add it all up, you know, it gets a little bit loose going down the road, and probably the steering box has a certain amount of play. Being as it's an old steering box, you know, I don't really crank gears down tight on it because I don't want to wear it out and break stuff. Anyway, bugs drive good. As you can see here, I'll rotate this guy. The tire here, the tire's been on there for probably 30 to 40,000 now, and it's wearing evenly, and it's not even halfway down yet to the wear bar, and so it's, you know, unreasonable alignment considering how much I drive this thing and how fast I drive it. So my alignment's pretty good, and I generally align them. I use a sliding affair, kind of like a curtain rod, to adjust the toe on these, and then the other adjustment is based upon the number of shims on your link pins there, and you can get all those specs out of a book, how many shims on each side and blah blah blah, and run it down the road. No computer alignment on this guy. Then I have a really large I don't know what you call it, sway arm, sway bar, whatever on here. It's probably a 7/8, 3/4, 7/8 inch. They're generally little tiny guys, smaller than your pinky. But anyway, I got a great big one on this thing, and stiffens the ride up quite a bit. Gas shocks all around. Anyway, it's a good driver. So I'm going to go ahead and grease this thing, and then maybe I'll turn you on when I'm actually doing some adjustment or something. Okay, there's the lower link pin, the backing plate right here. Anyway, it comes through the far side here by the backing plate, over and through. It's got this kind of funny shaped end on it. Anyway, and then the locking bolt right here going through, you can see the split in the trailing arm where the link pin comes through. Anyway, you got to loosen the lock up here, and then you're able to doing this backwards, able to adjust this in and out to take up the slack in that bearing. So first thing you got to do is to get it loose. I'm going to try and do it without knocking the camera over here. I think I got the right size here. Throw a wrench on there, and I guess I'm going to have to get in the way to do it. That thing's pretty tight. So let me go ahead and get it loose so I don't knock the camera over, and I'll put you back. Alright, for the sake of ease here, I'm just going to go ahead and blast this loose with the air. I just moved you back a little bit so you're out of the way. Okay, so that got it loose, and then basically that just relieves the stress on this split here in the trailing arm. Then you're able to rotate this in and out. It's on a kind of a worm slot through that bolt that allows it to go in and out. I'm going to actually take up some slack here, maybe. And I don't feel any slack, so go back the other way. Okay. So that loosened it. Go ahead and see if I can move this now. Probably hear that little bit of rattle there. Bring that back up. And that'll take that slop out of there. And I don't want to go too tight or I'll just wear it out quick, so go ahead and back it off a little bit. Bring it up again till she, I don't know what the tolerance is, just till it's snug. Then I can go ahead and tighten that clamp back down. And that one there has been adjusted. That's that for that one. And then as I was wiggling things, I noticed the top ones feel fine. No play up there. And so I'm not going to worry about it. Now I'm going to do the other side, I guess. And it's basically the same deal all over again. One side's loose, probably the other side is loose, and it seems that it's generally the lowers on these that take the most abuse. There we go. And I basically have to do the same thing over there, so I'll go ahead and the wheel out of the way. I've already greased these a couple shots. Just grease them until the grease starts coming out of the various places. And I'll feel this guy, see if I got any play in it. Actually, I don't feel a whole bunch in that one. Get underneath there. That one there doesn't feel bad. I can see just a tiny bit of in and out there. So I'll go ahead and adjust it. I think you guys are in the right location. Or did I tip you over? Where are you? Yeah, you're right there. Anyway, I think you're looking at it. Okay. Get the stress off of that guy. Go ahead and back that off. Bring it on up. Okay, back it off. She's loose. Get on up. That's still got a bit of the looseness there. Alright.
think I might have a little play in my wheel bearing as well, so I'll probably go ahead and adjust that while I'm working on it. Doesn't take any time, so go ahead and do that. A wrench on there. Yeah, it's tight, not going anywhere. Yeah, I didn't feel any play in my tie rod ends or any of that. They're all good and tight, so I'm gonna go ahead and call that good. I'm gonna grease these other two zerks once I put it back on the ground. Alright, I guess I'm going to go ahead and adjust the wheel bearing here. And a while back I did a thing about speedometer cable going through the spindle. Anyway, I think well, maybe we can see it, maybe not. Bring it a little closer. There we go. Anyway, right here, that's the speedometer cable. It comes through the grease cap here. Square hole in the grease cap, and then the end of the cable square, and then it's got a little clip here. Supposed to be a clip that goes into a groove in this cable to keep it from pulling back through. Mine is not a clip. Mine is a piece of MIG wire through the slot and then twist it up, so I just tear it off of there and then I'll put another piece on when I put it back together. There we go. Get rid of that, then I can get this cap off of here if I'm lucky. And you can see the blue grease there. That's basically boat trailer grease that I use. I don't feel a bunch of play in here, but I don't know. Seems like there's some play somewhere in this front end. And I'm not seeing it in my link pin, so maybe it's here. Anyway, gotta go ahead and loosen the lock nut here. Maybe, oh, I got the right cap on there, I do. In between the two lock nuts on the outside there, it's got a kind of a big washer affair with a couple of ears on it. You bend over. One on one nut, one on the other, keeps it all from coming loose. I gotta figure out where that is. There's one there. Should be one right here. Here we go. So I'll go ahead and bend that guy off of there. And the center of this washer actually has a tab that goes into the slot in the axle to keep it from rotating. I should be able to get that loose at this point. The outer nut. And let me think. This is an old car, which means it's probably a left-hand thread. There it is. Yeah, the older cars on the driver's side, a lot of the axle bolts, things like that, were left-hand thread. American cars are that way too. I remember old Pontiac we had, a 56, when I was growing up. Actually the lug nuts on the passenger side, the lug bolts were left-hand thread, so you couldn't get those mixed up. And you had to remember which way you were going. Alright. Oh yeah, I got a little bit of play in that. Huh. Alright. Oh, getting worse because, like I was just talking about, it's a left-hand thread and I went the wrong way. There we go. Oh yeah. There we go, much better. Bring it up snug. I generally bring it up snug and then I back it off just a tiny bit. That Volkswagen book, the Idiot book, talks about there's a washer in here, and once you bring it up tight, you ought to be able to move that washer without a whole bunch of effort, so you're not over tight on your bearings. And then we'll go ahead and slip our keeper back on there. Sounds like I got a visitor here. I think it's Oregon Guy 302. Sounded like a Chevy to me. That's probably the case. Anyway, go ahead and tap this washer back in there. That feels a whole bunch better than it did. Well, I'm not happy with it yet. I'm going to go ahead and snug that up a little more. Yeah, it backed off when I put that washer thing back on there, so. Go ahead and adjust this. I'll be back.